Okay, having looked at how to work out standard normal distribution problems with tables, let's now see how to do it with a calculator. So, same problem as we looked at last time. Still do a sketch. That part really will iron out most of the errors, most of the silly errors you would ever make with this. So we want the probability of being less than 0.23. So it's this region over here. So we can go ahead and look this up on a table. Here's how you do it with your calculator. So go to Menu, go to Distributions and select Normal CD. That's a cumulative distribution. It's going to be adding everything up, or the area up. So I'll go for that. Now it needs a lower bound and an upper bound. The upper bound is 0.23. We don't have a lower bound. The lower bound is minus infinity. So we use the following hack of just doing minus an enormous number. To be honest, since the standard deviation is only 1, if I put that, it would be fine. But just get in the habit of just smashing in a number which is very big. Now, because it's the standard normal distribution, we want the standard deviation to be 1 and the mean to be 0. That's what it will default to, but you can change that, which we'll do later on in the course. Okay, and with that done, there's our answer, 0.59, 10. So 0.5910. And the notation here is phi of 0.23. And there's our answer. And that's, of course, the same as it was with the tables. Of course it is, right? Unless one of them was wrong. And they're not wrong. So you get the same answer either way. And personally, I think that is easier than looking things up in the table. Particularly so when the numbers become more fiddly, like this one. Okay, so for this one here, our sketch, just to ensure we're picking the right region. Here's the 0. Here's 1.417. So we want to know what phi of 1.417 was. And remember, this was actually quite fiddly with the tables. We had to be very careful adding bits and bobs up. With the calculator, we don't need to do any of that. We're looking for this region, so that's the area between minus infinity and 1.417. Hop over to the calculator. It's minus infinity up to 1.417. Standard deviation is 1, mean is 0, and there's our answer, 0.9218. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that that is actually a tiny bit different from the value from the table, which was 0.9217. And that's because the tables are not exactly accurate. They're trying to give a method to give a decent answer most of the time, but these add numbers are rules of thumb and they're just off sometimes. So don't be worried if you get a slightly different answer. A mark scheme would never penalize you for using either the tables or the calculators, even if the value was fractionally different. Okay, what about this one here? Well, for this one, you get your sketch up again, and it's greater than 1.417. So it's this region here, and we saw in the previous video that the method to do that using tables was first work out the probability of being less than that point, and then do 1 minus that. Now, that kind of step is really unnecessary once you've got a calculator, because there is simply no reason to actually work that out. Now, in the mark schemes, they often do show that sort of method because many of the people solving will be using tables. But you're not going to lose marks if you skip over that step. If if there's a normal distribution question, you do need to standardize it. We'll work on that in the future videos, but you don't necessarily need to use this phi notation. Here's what I mean by this. It is okay to solve this question simply by going to the calculator and saying, well, I want, in fact, a lower bound of 1.417, and this time it's my upper bound, which is infinite. Standard deviation 1, mean of 0, and there's my answer, right? It's totally correct, 0.0782, and you're not going to lose any marks for that. So there is actually no need to go through this whole 1 minus phi of 1.417 business. You can if you want to show extra bits of working, but there's not going to be any extra credit there. So that's kind of why I like the calculator method. It really does make that sort of thing trivially easy. Okay, this one here, again, this one you have to be very careful when you're using tables. In this case, we have our 0 here, we have minus 1.981 here, and we can just get this bit, again, straight from the calculator. So I can just say I want a lower bound that's sort of minus infinity, an upper bound of minus 1.981, and there's our answer, 0.0238. So personally, I think that's much easier than messing around on the tables, but I've shown you both methods and it's very much up to you which one to choose. In my future videos, I will try to use a combination of tables and calculator, but do bear in mind that if you stick around for my Probability and Statistics 2 course, in that one I really just do use calculator the whole way for that one. Okay, that's how to calculate probabilities with a standard normal distribution. I'll see you in the next video.